Hi, this is Justin at All Wheel Drive Auto, and today what I'm going to show you is what's called a separator plate on a Subaru. So right here, this black plastic piece, this is actually what's called the separator plate. What I kind of want to show you is all of this oil residue right here that's as a result of the separator plate leaking. And this is at the back of the engine on a Subaru. This particular component is not visible until you've actually taken either the engine out of the vehicle and then either the flywheel or flex plate, or if you've removed the transmission from the vehicle and then removed the flywheel or flex plate. And that's when you can actually physically see this component. What the separator plate does is it separates liquid oil from oil vapor for part of the PCV system, which I'm going to show you part of that here in just a minute. But again, focusing on the back of the engine, three things that are visible back here. This is the separator plate, which we can actually clearly see is leaking out engine oil. This is the rear main seal, which you can actually see is actually pretty dry, and that is pretty typical of the Viton coated rear main seals that Subaru started using starting in 1999 for replacement and production in 2000. And this is the rear wrist pin for cylinder number 4. And you can actually see how this is the rear wrist pin access, I should say. There's an O-ring behind this plate, and you can see that the O-ring's actually failed, and it's actually allowing some oil to start to seep out a little bit. Back over here at the separator plate, you can actually see how much oil is actually leaking out, and again at the rear main seal, you can actually see that it's still pretty dry. Separator plate actually sits just below this particular pipe right here, which is part of the PCV system. This was used up until 2001 on most Subaru vehicles, and then starting in 2001 they made a change, and the PCV actually screws into a fitting at the engine block, and then there's a smaller hose that goes up to the intake manifold, where up until then, starting in about 1989 with the EJ 2.2 liter, this was the design, and they kept with it through the 2.2 and the 2.5 again up until 2001, where they made a slight change, but the location of the components is actually still the same. It's just that the design of the components is a little bit different, but all of them still retain the separator plate, and the separator plate is still in existence and production in pretty much all of the Subaru engines up to date. Now we're going to go over here. I've got a couple of separator plates up here for you. And this is again the plastic separator plate Subaru started using in 1993. Prior to 1993 they used an aluminum separator plate, and again starting in 1993 they went with this plastic one to save costs. What happens to these plastic ones is they have a tendency to crack. So not only can the separator plate silicone between the separator plate and the engine block start to fail and give out, what also happens is that the separator plate has a tendency to crack. Usually cracks after it's been taken off and resealed. Go to tighten up these screws, that's typically when the separator plate will actually crack, which just creates an even bigger leak. Instead, what should happen is that this is the updated separator plate made available by Subaru, which requires replacement of the fasteners. They changed the design of the separator plate to a steel plate that has a flat portion for the fasteners to screw up to, where over here on this separator plate it's got concave. All of these components, the separator plate and the screws, are available for about $40 for all of the parts needed to do it. And it's a worthwhile investment if the engine's coming out to do head gaskets, or if the transmission's coming out to replace the clutch. It's really a smart thing to do, just as good preventative maintenance to prevent a future leak, especially if it's got the plastic one. So again, if the engine's coming out to do head gaskets, it's a good idea to do the separator plate if it still has the plastic one. If it's got a steel one already, or if it has an aluminum one on it, those really just need to be resealed. But if not, I would update the plastic one to a steel one at the time of replacing head gaskets, or if the transmission's coming out for any shape, form, or fashion. So again, if you've got a puzzling oil leak at the back of a Subaru engine, it's probably not the rear main seal, it's probably the separator plate. This is Justin with All Wheel Drive Auto, trying to keep Subaru owners informed.